Got some classroom management woes? We've all struggled with student behavior in the classroom at one time or another. The backbone of your classroom, the part that supports everything else you do, is your classroom management system. Honestly, just about any system can work if it fits you and your teaching style. The key is your system needs to be simple, easy to use and manage all day long, and sustainable over the long haul that is the school year. Obviously, today is all about classroom management.
I'm Lisa Burns, a teacher success coach, veteran elementary teacher, and mom of 5. And this is the Teach Joyfully podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Are you missing out? Team H.O.P.E Insiders get extra encouragement, tips and tricks, surprise freebies, and more. Become a H.O.P.E Insider today and get access to all kinds of freebies at www.hopeineducation.com/vault. By this point in the year, either your classroom management is functioning well or you're falling apart. There isn't a lot of in between at this point. Yes, some years are harder than others, and every group of students is different, but the reality is we are the same teacher every single year. And classroom management really is more about us than it is about the students. Yes, we have to make some tweaks for different classes, but overall, it really is about us managing our system and being consistent in order for it all to function well. I know you've heard this before, but teaching really is a marathon, not a sprint. In order to not just survive, but thrive in the midst of a marathon, good classroom systems must be in place, and that includes your classroom management system. And today, I'd like to share my simple system to make managing your students' behavior just a little bit easier. In fact, if you use this consistently, your students will begin to learn how to take responsibility for their behavior. So let's dive in. So any good classroom management system must start with a little bit of your mindset. If we don't start with our mindset, then any system will fail. And if you have a classroom management system that's working for you, by all means, stick with it because that's worth its weight in gold. But if you're struggling, then take a listen and see if there's even just a couple of pieces that you can take with you that might make things better. So I start with a Power Phrase Worksheet. Now my Power Phrase Worksheet is an essential piece because it's about a teacher getting their words ready long before they need to use them. Now, when we start speaking to our students and we don't know what's going to come out of our mouth and we're frustrated, quite often we can say things that set us up for failure. So we really want to set ourselves up for success. And that power phrase being having something that you say that buys you some time and gives you a minute to regroup and decide how you're going to handle things is essential. It can be almost anything. For me, my power phrase is, oh gosh, that was a really unfortunate choice. I'll talk to you in a minute. And that is it. For you, it might be something different. If you want more details on it, you can go back to episode 6, The Power of Words, Speaking with Intention, and I'll link that episode in the show notes for you. And there is a worksheet to help you come up with your own power phrase. I will have that linked in the show notes for you as well. Once you have that in place and you've been practicing and you're ready to go, then you can start with a classroom management system. My system starts with 3 simple physical pieces: a check sheet to track student behavior, a stop and think sheet, and a small check sheet on student desks. Now, I like systems that are simple, simple, simple. The more complicated something is, the more for sure it's not going to work for me. I don't do light systems. I don't do reward systems. I really like to keep things as simple as possible. I think that the rules and expectations should speak for themselves, and I need to be very consistent in how I enforce that. The more I'm consistent, the better things go every single time. I always know if we're having a really bad day, it's almost always starts with me. I have to go back and look at myself. I had one day not that long ago that my principal said, "Are you having a rough day?" And I had to laugh because I said yes. And she said, some of those kids can be a challenge. And I said, it's not them, it's me. It's entirely my fault because I'm not being consistent. And she burst out laughing because she's been there. She understood, she completely knew, and she thought it was hilarious that I was already owning it at 10 o'clock in the morning. But you know what? It happens. There are days when we are not consistent. If you don't get enough sleep, or have other things going on at home and you get distracted from your purpose, it can be easy to get off track. It happens. But if you can own it and regroup, then usually you can get things back on track and moving again. And that is what this is all about. It has to be simple enough for you to regroup and get yourself going again. All right, so let's start with the stop and think sheet. The stop and think sheet is a little half sheet of paper, and it has my expectations on it. And under each expectation, there's a list of a few things that students could possibly be in trouble for. In our school, we use what we call be statements. So be respectful, be responsible, be kind, be safe, and because I'm at a Christian school, be spiritual. Now, when I work in the public schools, I take that piece off and we just have the 4. Under each one, there are check boxes. Things like talking during instruction or quiet time. Talking back to adults could be under be respectful. Something under be kind could be teasing other students, saying or doing mean things, being responsible. So some things might be missing supplies, not following directions. It could be missing supplies or not being prepared for school, not following directions. Those kinds of things fall under be responsible. And under being safe is unsafe behavior on the playground or unsafe behavior in the building, like running, misusing scissors, those kinds of things. And it could be even fighting. You could add or subtract anything that you wanted to this. And then at the bottom, it says, next time I will, and I have students write on the back of the sheet what they will do differently next time. There's a place for teacher comments and a parent signature. Yes, I send them home. Now, I don't take the time for students to write what they'll do next time on the back of the sheet, typically during the school day. Because these sheets to me are cumulative. So if a student at the beginning of the day is already at the point where they need a stop and think sheet, then I may start the sheet for them, but I hang on to it till the end of the day because you never know if things continue to spiral downward. If they don't, great. But if they do, then I can continue to add to the sheet. Now, another way I've handled them before is we have a calm corner and I may send a student with a sheet to that calm corner telling them what it was that had happened and checking that box. And then on the back, they go ahead and write what they will do differently next time. Then it can go home or you can hang on to it and add to it if you need to. I just don't always have time for that. And so if that's the case, then I make sure that they do that at home with their parent. The second piece I use is a small square tracking sheet that either gets laminated or goes in these clear plastic self-adhesive sleeves that adhere to a corner of a student's desk. Either way is fine. I use a permanent marker, and throughout the day, if one side says talking, the other side of it says other. And for whatever infractions that students have, I just make a tally mark, and that's it. I use a permanent marker for that so that students are not erasing the marks because yes, they will try to do that or even accidentally do that with other markers that will not stay put. If they just slide their books across, sometimes it accidentally erases it. And we just keep a tally for the day. It's very simple. It's very easy. I do not say a word. I simply make a mark. The students already know. They know exactly what those marks mean, and I don't have to say anything. They do not like getting marks on those sheets. It is between me and each personal student. It is not for the rest of the class, and the students know that. They don't keep a tally of anyone else's. It's not up on the board. It is personal. It's right on their desk. And we just start fresh every single day. So you can write over that permanent marker with a dry erase marker, and then the whole thing will erase easily off of there at the end of the day. Then the next piece is I have a tracking sheet. Once the students have gone home for the day, I take that tracking sheet and it's just a checklist with all the student names, and then I have different small little columns. I'll put the day's date at the top of the column, and I just put the number of tally marks the student has. If they get a stop and think sheet for that day, then I put a little star in that box so I know that the next day I need to be asking them for that stop and think sheet returned and signed by their parent. And if they filled it out at home, on the back for what they're going to do differently, make sure that that's done. If they fill it out at school, then obviously it's already done. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, so Lisa, when do students get a stop and think sheet? I start out with a warning. My students get 2 warnings. So if they're talking or doing something inappropriate, I give them 2 warnings. I teach first graders. They're still learning. You may only give 1 warning. It depends on your class. It depends on the grade level. You're going to have to decide what's best for you and for your students. But for me, I give 2. After 2, then I go ahead and give them a stop and think sheet. I hand it to them, ask them to write their name on it. They bring it back to me, and I check off whatever it is that they did. Then we have a quick chat about what it is that they did and an apology, and then we try and move forward. It's a chance for students to reset and get started all over again. So for every infraction from that point on, we add to the stop and think sheet. Hopefully we're not continuing adding. It's pretty rare that that happens in my classroom, but there are days when that does, when kids are simply falling apart. And if it does, it does. We just add to the stop and think sheet. I write a note to the parents on it, and it goes home at the end of the day. The good news is tomorrow's a new day, and we get to try all over again.
All right, so that's it, my teacher friends, for this episode of the Teach Joyfully podcast. My sincere thanks to you, my listeners, for tuning in, and for all those of you who've taken the time to post a review, email me your thoughts, or DM me on Instagram with your feedback and topic requests. You can find the show notes and all the resources mentioned in the episode on my website at www.hopeineducation.com/podcast. And remember, a happy teacher is a good teacher. Until next time, teach joyfully and take care of you.